Good evening, everyone. Today, we're diving into a critical topic, the debt crisis in France and the lessons it holds for us here in the United States. France, the Eurozone's second largest economy, is grappling with a financial mess that's raising eyebrows globally. With a public debt exceeding 110% of GDP and a budget deficit projected to hit 6.1% in 2024, France is teetering on the edge of a fiscal cliff. So, what's going on, and why should Americans care? Let's break it down. First, let's set the stage. France's debt has ballooned to over 3.2 trillion euros, roughly $3.5 trillion. That's a staggering number, representing 112% of its GDP in 2024, nearly double the European Union's 60% debt to GDP cap. The deficit, meanwhile, is more than twice the EU's 3% limit. This isn't a new problem. France hasn't balanced its budget since 1974, piling up deficits through decades of generous public spending. The COVID-19 pandemic, energy crises, and increased military spending under President Emmanuel Macron have only accelerated this trend. Add to that political gridlock, a hung parliament with no clear majority, and you've got a recipe for financial instability. So, what's driving this crisis? One major factor is France's heavy reliance on public spending, which accounts for 57% of GDP, among the highest in the developed world. This funds robust social programs, pensions, healthcare, and welfare, but it's unsustainable when tax revenues can't keep up. For example, pension spending alone eats up 15% of GDP, a figure that's hard to maintain without structural reforms. Meanwhile, borrowing costs are rising. In 2024, France's 10-year bond yields hit 3.47%, matching Greece's, a country that went bankrupt 15 years ago. This signals a loss of investor confidence, as markets now see French debt as riskier than ever. Rating agencies are sounding alarms too. Standard & Poor's downgraded France's credit rating to AA in May 2024, and Moody's shifted its outlook to negative in October, citing doubts about France's ability to curb deficits. The European Union has France under an excessive deficit procedure, demanding a plan to bring the deficit below 3% by 2029. But political chaos makes this tough. After snap elections in 2024, no party secured a majority, and Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government collapsed in December after a no-confidence vote. This instability scares investors, pushing borrowing costs higher and risking a debt spiral where higher interest payments eat into budgets, leaving less for services or growth. Now, why does this matter to the United States? Our own debt situation isn't exactly rosy. The U.S. public debt is projected to hit 99% of GDP in 2025, with deficits averaging 6% of GDP over the next decade. Like France, we've normalized deficit spending, often justified by crises or stimulus needs. France's experience offers 3 key lessons for us. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Lesson 1. Unsustainable spending can't go on forever. France's whatever-it-takes approach, massive spending during COVID, energy subsidies during the Ukraine crisis, and tax cuts to boost growth, worked in the short term but left a long-term mess. When interest rates were low, this seemed manageable. But as the European Central Bank raised rates to fight inflation, France's debt servicing costs soared, hitting 55 billion euros in 2025 and projected to reach 100 billion euros by 2029. That's more than its military budget. In the US, our interest payments are projected to hit $1 trillion annually by 2030. If rates rise or markets lose confidence, we could face a similar squeeze, forcing tough choices between cutting services, raising taxes, or borrowing even more. Lesson 2. Political gridlock amplifies financial risks. France's fractured parliament, split between Macron centrists, the far-right National Rally, and the left-wing New Popular Front, has paralyzed budget reforms. Proposals like cutting holidays or freezing pensions spark protests, while tax hikes on the wealthy or corporations face resistance. Sound familiar? The US Congress often deadlocks over debt ceilings and budgets, with both parties pushing competing agendas. France shows us that without compromise, markets get jittery. In 2024, the spread between French and German bond yields hit 90 basis points, the highest since the 2012 Eurozone crisis. A similar loss of confidence here could spike our borrowing costs, hitting everything from mortgages to business loans. Lesson 3. Structural reforms are hard but necessary. France's high taxes, among the highest in the OECD, and rigid labor market stifle growth, making it harder to reduce debt through economic expansion. Reforms, like raising the retirement age from 62 to 64, triggered nationwide protests. Yet without tackling entitlements or inefficiencies, France's debt keeps climbing. In the US, Social Security and Medicare face long-term funding gaps. The Congressional Budget Office warns that without changes, these programs could drive deficits to 10% of GDP by 2050. France's struggle shows that delaying tough reforms only makes the problem worse, and the eventual fix more painful. So, what can we do? France's crisis suggests a few actionable steps. First, we need a credible plan to stabilize Ediator. Not a balanced budget, but a plan that shows we're serious about reducing deficits over time. France's 2025 budget aims to cut the deficit to 5% of GDP, with measures like spending freezes and targeted tax hikes. The US could adopt a similar approach, blending spending restraint with revenue increases, but it must be politically feasible. Bipartisan commissions, like the 2010 Simpson-Bowles plan, have proposed balanced solutions, yet political will remains a hurdle. Second, we should diversify revenue sources. France's reliance on high-income taxes limits flexibility. The US could explore broader tax bases, like a value-added tax, while preserving progressive rates to protect lower earners. This could stabilize revenue without overburdening any single group. Finally, we must prioritize growth-friendly policies. France's high production taxes and labor regulations hurt competitiveness, with companies facing 25% higher costs than in China since 2019. The US must avoid policies that choke investment and innovation, like excessive tariffs or overregulation, while investing in infrastructure and education to boost long-term growth. France's crisis isn't just a European problem, it's a warning. The US isn't France, but our debt trajectory mirrors theirs in troubling ways. By learning from their mistakes, curbing runaway spending, bridging political divides, and tackling structural issues, we can avoid a similar fate. Ignoring these lessons risks a future where debt crowds out opportunity, and markets, not voters, dictate our choices. Thank you for listening. Let's take these lessons seriously and act before our own debt becomes a crisis we can't escape.